Welcome back, you guys. So here we have the lesson on comparing. They could be comparing people, comparing things, comparing food, but comparing nouns, whatever that could be. This is on page of your textbook, page 174, and it's basically just like it says up here, comparatives or comparison words basically are expressions used to compare to people or things, whatever the things could be. Like I said, food, classes, books, movies, anything. In English, we tend to make these comparisons by saying like, oh, this person is taller than someone else, or they are nicer or funnier. Or you could use it by saying more or less, or even the word as. Like, my sister is more artistic than I am, or my sister is less athletic than I am, or maybe my sister is as organized as my mom. Like, they're both the same. So we tend to use a lot of these words for English, similar to us in Spanish. And these are the different versions, and we kind of already know more or less. I'm hoping you guys remember, but we kind of already know some of these, but we're having them all in one group finally. So there are several ways in Spanish to make comparisons, and there's two versions of this. It kind of just depends as to how you want to describe whatever you are trying to describe. One version would be más que, which means more than. We've had this word que before. It was the word for what if it had the accent on the E. Here it does not, which means it does not say what, it says than. So an example, if it's mi abuela or my grandma is more artistic than my dad in this case, you would be using más que for describing your grandma in comparison to your dad. She is more something than my dad. In this case, she's more artistic. She might be more funny. She might be more interesting. She might be more nice, whatever she could be. But you are saying she is more than my dad. In the opposite way, if something is less than, you say menos, the word for less. Menos que. So an example, la clase de ciencias, or the science class, es menos divertida. It is less fun than the English class, than English. So maybe you agree with that, maybe you don't. Maybe you want to say that ciencias es más divertida. Maybe you think it's more fun. Or maybe they're exactly the same, right? So it just depends on opinions. That's basically what comparisons are. The tan como will be the words that you say if it is exactly the same. So an example that they give you here are two sisters. Tus hermanas, your sisters. Remember, tus is that possessive word for your, in this case for someone that you're pretty familiar with. Tus hermanas son tan serias, they are as serious as the teacher. So they have really serious sisters. They almost act like teachers, apparently. This word says tan como. It does not say que, like the other two. Instead, for como, we used to have that word mean how, like como estás. But that would only be when you had the accent on the O for how. Remember, all your question words have an accent. They do not have an accent on them. That means they are not being used in a question word way. It's something else. So here, tan como would be as something as. Or I could say, like, for example, I think that pizza is as tasty as nachos or something like that. You're saying they are the same. If you think pizza is less tasty than nachos, you would say es menos rico, menos tasty. Or maybe it's more tasty, más rico, than whatever things you're comparing it to. However, you might not always have an adjective. So, when you're comparing people, things, foods, books, right, whatever you're comparing, when they do not involve an adjective, as in you are not calling someone nicer or funnier or smarter or more organized or whatever, if you're not describing, then you don't need to leave that adjective space in the middle. If you notice, it was like new word, old word, new word, new word, old word, new, old, new. So if it isn't using an adjective, you don't need to use that space. And these are, wrong way. These are some examples of that. So if I just want to say, for example, I like to go to the library more than the gym, which I agree. I would rather go to the library than the gym. Then I don't need that space for an adjective. I'm not calling the adjective more fun. I'm not calling the library more fun. I'm not calling the library closer. I'm not describing the library at all. I'm just saying I like it more than something else. So if you ever talk about liking things or maybe disliking something or liking it as much, but if you talk about likes, you're usually not going to need an adjective, and this is what you're going to use instead. Me gusta ir. I like to go. A la biblioteca. To the library. Más que, more than, al gimnasio, the gym. I'm not describing them as anything. I'm just saying I like this more than something else. A mí me gusta la pizza más que las hamburguesas. Maybe I like pizza more than burgers, right? I'm not describing the pizza. I'm not describing the burgers. I'm just saying I like it more. If you like it less. So here we have me gustan las hamburguesas menos que, again, less than, los tacos. So I like burgers less than tacos. I'm not describing the burgers. I'm not describing the tacos. I'm just saying I like them less. Same thing for the last one. Maybe you like them exactly the same. Or maybe you're asking someone, do you like both of these things the same? You can ask, ¿te gusta hablar? Do you like to talk? ¿Tanto como escuchar? Do you like to talk as much as you listen? Or, ¿te gusta Netflix tanto como Hulu? Maybe you like them both. Or, ¿te gusta YouTube tanto como Hulu? Or something else, right? So, tanto como would just mean as much as. If you notice, it's a little bit different. Wrong way. Tanto como is a little bit different than tan como. All the rest are exactly the same. Menos que is menos que. You just don't have a word in the middle. There's no adjective. Más que is más que. You just don't have the adjective in the middle, but the spelling is exactly the same. Tan is different than tanto. This tanto word is a little bit bigger because you don't necessarily need to put an adjective in the middle of it. So there's nothing in there that needs like the space for it. Tanto como, in this case, is as much as. It's not as something. It's not as fun as interesting as difficult as. It's just as much. So because you don't put that adjective in the middle, you say the word much instead. So that would be that second option. If you like something or you don't like something, right? Maybe you don't like pizza, just like you don't like tacos or whatever the versions were, then you could say no me gusta la pizza tanto como los tacos. I do not like both of those things. That's fine. But if you talk about liking or disliking, you don't need adjectives and you use the bottom sections instead. The last section when it comes to this, I keep going the wrong way, I'm sorry, is that there are a few words down here that you don't actually need to put tan or más or menos with. You just say them on its own. Older, younger, better, worse. Any of these words, you don't need to say más mayor or menos mayor. You just say mayor or menor for younger. You won't say more younger or less younger. You just say younger, right? Better or worse. You won't say more better or you won't say less better. You'll just say it's better. Or if it's worse, then you tell me that it's worse. It's not more worse or less worse. These are some of the examples they give you. These are the only few words that you do need to, depending as to what you're talking about, change your spellings and add more. If, for example, you have a bunch of older brothers who are obviously older than you and you have more than them or multiples of them, like maybe you have 3 brothers and they're all older, then you would say mayores with an ES. Here, this example says that my uncles are older than my aunt. A lot of tíos. So a lot of mayores that you're spelling. If you are the oldest and you have a lot of younger siblings, you would say menores, like my siblings are younger. All of them are. If something is better, if you think your cousins are better than other people's cousins, you can say mis primos, right? My cousins son mejores que tus primos, than your cousins. But because you're talking about multiples, ES. And then, of course, if something is worse and you have a lot of things that are worse, you would say peores instead. But these are the 4 that you don't actually need to use más, menos, or tanto. All the other adjectives we could possibly think of, old words that we've had basically, when you learn to describe people and how they acted, all of those would need either más or menos or tanto. That's kind of it for comparing people, places, things, ideas, any sort of noun. Hopefully it was semi-understandable. We are going to go over this in class like usual, practice it, but I'll see you guys then. Adios.